Buddy here. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Can you hear me, Scott? Are we good?
I can, sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Lynn. I'm a customer service rep here at Warmly Yours, and today I am joined by
Scott, hello, everybody.
Awesome. Scott's one of our technical support team members here at Warmly Yours, and today we're going to be talking about our new pro exclusive product, our electric floor heating ruler cable. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and if we don't see them right away, we'll get to them by the end of the presentation today. And like I said, we'll be talking about our ruler cable specifically, going over some of the product features, some of what makes this a newer upgraded product. We're also going to be talking about the installation options when using ruler cable, as well as comparing it to our original Tempzone cable product. So our Tempstone floor heating ruler cable has been a while in the making, and I know you were quite involved, Scott. Can you kind of tell us what we're looking at here, why we're offering the ruler cable and what it does?
It is a great new product that looks just like a ruler. So it helps you know where exactly you are as you work through the cable length on the spool. So you know how much you've used, how much you have left. It helps you visualize because it's so important because you don't really know why it's important until you don't do your installation correctly. And that means that you've either used too much cable or you don't have enough cable to do your job. And that's simply because sometimes it's installed incorrectly. So what we're trying to do here is to make it as easy to install, as graphically pleasing presentation of where you are in a spool of cable. Make it look as good as you can, a spool of cable, but that is what it is. But hopefully it'll make your installations go a lot easier. The hash marks are easy to read. It is going to be used in just about every type of heating situation when it comes to floor. There's a few things that it isn't used for that we use other products for, but it's a brand new, easy to use, easier to install product.
Absolutely. So looking at, you had mentioned that it looks like a ruler. We actually do have the ruler marks on there for different increments of space. So there are hash marks at every half inch, inch, and foot. And this way, along with our smart plan that we'll provide to you, which we'll be addressing in just a moment here, it's going to ensure that you're using the proper amount of cable and that you're getting that installation right, like you said, the first time.
Yeah, and actually if you look at our instructions, a lot of times you'll see the use of a tape measure, so you can measure how long these things need to be. If you forget your tape measure that day, you're in business because this is your tape measure. It's just like a ruler. 1 inch is 1 inch. We worked very hard on that printing to make sure that printing, if you have 1 foot of cable, that it shows 1 foot, that it really is 1 foot. So that takes a lot of work to get that done. So we've done a lot of work on this product to make it much, much easier for you to install. So a lot of work's gone into it, but I think it's definitely going to help.
Yes, and one of the really great things about this product is that there is a lot of improved durability and flexibility. So can you kind of tell us what the materials are in the ruler cable?
Yeah, they're in every one of these products, you've got two wires inside there, and those two wires are wires that carry the power. And those two wires that carry the power are the ones that heat up. And because they're so close together, they cancel out the EMF from each individual run. So it's practically zero EMF because they're so close together that the one cancels the other out. So that's what's so good about the product. And we changed a little bit of the design, the magic inside, to make it a little bit easier to bend. So when you're putting it in this membrane or on the cable fixing strips, the grip strips, it is more apt to be able to be moved more easily. The two wires that we talked about that create the heat inside, they actually have the ETFE fluoropolymer insulation, and that's a very high strength, very low weight type of product. When you are working on electric floor heating resistance cables, in the old days, it used to be that the longest cables were really, really, really thin, and the shortest cables were really, really, really thick. In relation to each other, they never got really thick. You couldn't put them in the floor if they were real thick. But the longer ones were thinner, and the shorter ones were wider. That has to do with the resistance that gives you your heat. So knowing that those wires inside are different, what we do is we use PVC on the outside, and that PVC is easier to mold than the ETFE, and that allows us to fit into these membranes. And no matter how long the wire is, it's always the same diameter. So that's what allows even long cables to fit in the same notches that the short cables fit in, and vice versa. So that's what's going on inside there, along with the ground and some shielding. So I can't give away the magic right here and now, but it is a very good product, easier to install.
Yes, it absolutely is. And another newer product that we're offering with the ruler cable is the Grip Strip product. So this is going to be instead of our original ways of doing an installation. Can you kind of tell us, Scott, what the difference is between this and how we had been installing earlier?
Oh, we were using the first iteration of a grip of a strip. It was a cable fixing strip. And if you've installed our products before, you're familiar with that. It was a burgundy color. We did a lot of design work on this grip strip, because when you put the cable in the old strips and you looped it around those 1 inch notches, those 1 inch humps that the wire went around, as soon as you put them around there, it would go back, it would get loose on you. And what we've done with this product is when you put that wire around those studs every inch, they have a gripping thing on each side that grips a hold of the wire to keep it from pulling this way or from pulling that way. So it kind of holds it in place. So you turn it and loop it around your 3-inch spacing or your 4-inch spacing. And when you do that, it helps hold it in place, so you're not always having to redo it as you move it around. You put it in there, it locks it in, and that's what you want to do. Also, whatever you're doing one of these installations, you always want to look for a strip that is plastic, not metal, because the plastic is not going to cut into the metal, the plastic is not going to cut into the cable like metal ones do. If you are working on a floor and you step on a metal strap, sometimes you can get that metal strap to go in and pierce the covering of the wire, and you don't want that. In fact, right now, today, we're working with somebody who unfortunately didn't watch one of our webinars, and they put staples over the wire to hold it in place. So that is very problematic. You always want to keep steel away from the wire. National Electric Code says to keep steel away from the wire. That's why you don't put it on lath. That's why you don't use staples. So now we have somebody's floor who's not working because it looks like they stapled it in place, and every single one of those staples that people put in there has created a constrictive point and caused a short there. So that is a big, big problem. So we tried to use something that was plastic, tried to use something that would hold onto the cable to make it easier to install. Also, it doesn't always have to do about that, looping it around those 1-inch studs. There's also 3 holes in the strips, and that allows you to use screws or nails to hold it in place without shattering the strip. In the old days, a lot of times if you used you tried to put a nail directly into the strip, it would crack and fall apart. We put 3 holes on this so you can always put your nails or screws or whatever there. It keeps the nail heads away from the wire, so you're actually nailing in the plastic strip. The plastic strip is holding onto the cable. So a lot of design. We worked multiple 3D prints through this to get it to work correctly, but I think we really have an easier to install product because of it.
Yeah, so when we say a grip strip, we really mean in 2 ways. We're keeping these gripped better to the subfloor, and it's going to hold onto the cable easier and make that an easier installation.
Correct.
So this is what our
Why
smart,
did it take me 10 minutes to say that and you took like 20 seconds? I got to figure that part out for the next webinar.
I think I've had enough coffee today for the first time in a while. Everything's kind of clicking. So this is what our smart plans will look like when we are designing with our ruler cable with grip strips. So can you kind of tell us, Scott, what these numbers mean? Because with this comes a few more markings that are newer if you've been working with us previously.
Yeah, and you'll see they're yellow, highlighted in yellow to coincide with the yellow of the cable. So if you look in the lower left-hand corner there, you'll see a 229, so 229 feet and 1 inch. That's what should be visible on your cable when you are at that spot in the drawing. If you look up there above it to the left, you see an 80 feet 0 inches. That is what your cable should indicate. The footage marking on your cable should indicate 80 feet right there at that spot. That way, you know as you're installing the product that you're not going to have too much, which means people always say, hey, I have too much wire. Can I cut it off? You can never, ever cut the cable. I talked to somebody last week who called on a weekend saying he was having trouble with his installation. Well, what he did is he bought a big spool and cut it up into pieces and put different pieces into the room. And all of the rooms failed. As soon as they hit them with power, they went pop, and they failed because you can't take a cable and shorten it. It has to be the right length. So what we're doing here is we're giving you the markings, 80 feet and 229 on the left side. Then on the right side, you'll see a 150-foot mark with 5 inches. That's another corresponding spot on the drawing, letting you know that you're using the correct amount, or you're using too little, or you're using too much.
Yes, definitely makes it easier to adjust if any mistakes are made before having to redo the entire thing.
What's very, very important though is that you don't lose track of those green numbers. Like if you look at the 261 and 10 inches, if you look there, directly below it is a 1 foot 1/2 inch mark. That's the distance from the wall to the grip strip. So that's what those numbers mean. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, or between the 80-foot mark and the 229 mark on the left side of the drawing, you'll see a 6.5. That 6.5 is 6.5 inches from the wall to where the cable is. And then above it, you'll see a 9 3/4. That's the distance from the wall to that grip strip. If you move these in too far, you'll have too much cable left over. If you move them too far apart, you're going to run out of cable. That's what those numbers mean. So those are the big takeaways. And the main thing you want to do before you even unspool your cable is to verify your field dimensions, which means, do the dimensions of the room match what you gave us, whatever it was last week or 2 months ago or something? Because if the dimensions are wrong, you're either going to have too much cable or you're going to have too little cable. So always, 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 please verify dimensions in the field prior to ordering or installing.
Absolutely. The other option for installing our ruler cable is using an uncoupling membrane. And there are a lot of benefits to this method of installation. One being that it does help improve the speed of installation even more than using the grip strips. The ruler cable really fits easily between those nodules in the membrane to help install it quickly and help hold it in place, as well as also offering crack isolation, some tile support, and waterproofing options when installed with different types of accessories.
Right. So very, very important. One thing when you're using this product is a great product, the Prodeso that you see here. But if you're using natural stone, one thing that I've seen a lot with people that are using natural stone is, whenever you're using a natural stone, you need to make sure you use at least 2 layers of underlayment. What people will do is they'll put one underlayment layer and then they'll do this. And if you look in the installation manual for Prodeso, it always says, if you're doing natural stone, you have to have 2 layers of underlayment. There's no way around it. But that's just the nature of natural stone. If you're using other types of flooring, you don't have to worry about that. But that's the one thing that I've seen. We had a call last week where somebody said I think it was marble. His marble cracked, and he had only put 1 layer of underlayment in, the plywood. So it's very, very important that you follow the instructions when you're putting that uncoupling membrane in. It'll tell you what layers you have to have, the number of layers, to make sure that you have a quality installation and nothing goes wrong.
Awesome. And then looking at the uncoupling membrane smart plan, obviously it looks quite a bit different. One of the main differences is that underlayment, or the membrane rather, the Prodeso, which is kind of that highlighted blue area in the drawing, is going to add a height difference to the floor. So you want to make sure that that's being installed throughout the entirety of the room, even if the heating is not going to be in those places. So you can kind of see it, behind the toilet, under vanities, cabinets, things like that.
Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about on the smart plan before is if you look down there at the middle, at the bottom, you'll see a 1 in a circle. That is where the cable starts because there's a triangle there and it's pointing to the start point. And also there's a T in a circle there, which is the thermostat. So you want to make sure that the thermostat on this drawing matches the location that you are going to use it in. So if you are putting that T in the upper right-hand corner, that means that you're going to probably have to redo the installation plan, which we will do for you at no charge. But something like that, where you're actually moving the thermostat to another side of the room or to a different location, it's best to let us know where it's moved to so we can do the drawing so you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. And we do that at no charge. Also, one thing here in the red writing right below that number 1 is the heating a closet. We get this a lot. People that want to heat their home, they don't know the National Electric Code, right? It's not like, oh, I've been studying the National Electric Code lately and I'm going to heat my floor. I know all the rules to follow. No one does, but we do because that's our business. So one thing to keep in mind is the National Electric Code does not allow heat in closets. However, your local code, your authority having jurisdiction, which is your local code official, they will tell you if it's allowed locally or not. Local code always overrules national code. So if your local code says, sure, go ahead and put the heat in the closet, well, you're good to go. But you always should ask when it comes to something like that. And I bet you didn't know, or I'm sure you knew, Lynn, but there are a lot of people out there that don't know that for our outdoor product, heating cable is not allowed in pool decks. So we get a lot of calls from people who want to heat their pool deck. The National Electric Code doesn't allow that either, but a local code may. So that's one of the things we try to put the national code in here. That's why we put that warning, because we don't want you to put this in and have your local guy come and say, I'm sorry, you can't hook that up because we don't allow heating in closets. We put that there to make sure that you check. It's very, very important to install the product per your local code.
Yes, yes, definitely something to be keeping in mind. So when you're using the grip strips, you'll want to make sure that they're fully embedded with a thin set product. And we're always looking to get a modified thin set, whether that's a latex or a polymer modified thin set. That's what you'll want to be using when installing the ruler cable. Can you kind of tell us, Scott, how you would use thin set when using the grip strips?
Well, there's 2 ways of putting this in. The single pass or the 2 pass. So people that are very, very experienced that have done dozens and dozens of floor heating projects, tile people, they can do it in 1 step. They can lay the cable out on the floor, using the grip strips, and then put thin set over the wires and then set the tile in it. If you're really good, you can do that. However, if you're not really good at laying tile, or if you haven't done it a dozen times, you'll have people that do this for the first time. They try it for the first time. And they call us and go, I've got lippage all over the place. And lippage is one tile's higher than the other. It's very hard to get those tiles the same height if you've never done it with this, because you need 3/8 of an inch of thin set to spread that heat evenly in your floor. So you need to do that. And if you haven't done this floor type of heat very often or at all, you'll want to do the 2-step method, which means you lay all this product out on the floor, but you don't tile over it. You just cover it with thin set. And then you let it firm up until the next day. Then you come and back butter the tiles and put the tiles down on top of that. So that's the 2-step method. That's what most people use because it helps deal with lippage. So that's what you're seeing here.
Yes, absolutely. And then when working with Prodeso, can you kind of tell us what the difference is, or is there really a difference in the installation?
In Prodeso, you would never say cover the entire area with thin set. and then come back the next day. You don't do that. You notice in this picture, I actually took this picture. It was on the cover of a tile magazine. So, well, I've hurt my arm patting myself on the back there, but why we included this picture is because notice there's not thin set everywhere. There's just thin set where the tiles are going to be going. So if you get halfway done with a floor, ideally half of your floor should have tile on it. The other half of the floor will just look blue with a yellow wire in it, because you never ever cover it all and then come back the next day. So that's the secret between the Prodeso, because you need to attach the Prodeso to the subfloor. The installation manual tells you which type of thin set to use for that. Then you set the tiles above it using this method. And you can also see that they've used tile adjusters there, height adjusters. The most important thing, those are great, by the way, because they help solve the lippage problem. But you want to make sure that when you're putting those white threaded pieces in, those plastic pieces, that you're not going to pinch the wire. You know, when you're pulling up like that, you make sure you don't pinch the wire up against the bottom of the tile. So that's how you do a Prodeso install. Get that on the floor and then put thin set over just enough to lay tiles to where you're going to stop. And if you have to stop, then that's where you stop and you come back the next day.
Good to know. Now, if you're going to be working with self-leveling cement, obviously it's going to be a little bit of a different installation process. Generally, we're looking at using self-leveling cement when you're going to be installing tile, stone, marble, or LVT. So can you kind of tell us, how that actually changes the installation process?
Yes, the wire is going to try to float to the top of the self-leveling. And 99 times out of 100, you're not going to be self-leveling over the Prodeso. You're going to be installing Prodeso like the previous slide. So not only if you're using the grip strips here, you have to remember that you're going to put masking tape over the cables every 2 to 3 feet across the room. That's going to hold the cables down, because if you don't do that, all the cables are going to float to the top of the self-leveling and you're going to have a mess on your hands. So the most important thing is to keep the cables attached to the floor. So but once you do that, you are going to have a nice flat surface. Now, the one thing you have to do is, people see self-leveling. Oh, I've got all the tools I need for self-leveling. I've got the spike shoes. I've got the gauge rake. I'm going to do all this stuff. Well, unfortunately, you can't use either one of those when it comes to using self-leveling over cable, because if you use those things that go under your shoes, you're going to damage the wire as you walk around. If you take a gauge rake and you go like this, you're going to pull the cable right up off the floor. So you have to use a squeegee and your regular tennis shoes when you're doing these types of jobs. So that's another very important thing. If you see self-leveling and the self-leveling people are coming in, you need to make sure they don't have spikes on their shoes, and you need to make sure they don't have gauge rakes, because those two things can trash your floor. So you want to stay away from that. But what you do, if you do it correctly, is you have a nice flat floor that you can put any of those types of flooring over the top of: carpet squares, vinyl, laminate flooring, mostly LVT jobs.
Yep, absolutely. It's basically making a heated subfloor that you can then put the flooring down right on top of.
Right. And we say a half inch for LVT because most of the LVT installation instructions will say it right in there that the heating product must be a half inch from the flooring product. So that's where that half inch comes in when you're doing LVT. It's to help you comply with the warranty.
So when comparing to our original Tempstone cable system, the differences are, like you said, there was a lot of work that went into this. So they might seem a little bit understated, but they're definitely very big differences that are going to make a huge impact on how much time and effort it takes to install a system. So one of the main differences, like we said, is those printed hash marks. It's going to make it an incredibly easy installation and very simple to follow, as well as the update or upgraded materials to make it an easier installation.
Yeah, the one thing you want to look at, and this is showing the specific case where you'll need to use the older
Yes.
cable when you're doing nail down wood. So that means the sleepers that you see there, and if you're doing nails, then you need to use the old type of cable because it's listed for that application. So if you see this and you go, what, I want to heat nailed down wood, that's instantly going to tell you that we're going to use the red cable, and it's going to go back and forth in those slots between the sleepers for you to nail down in. So that's where that cable is going to come in handy for you.
Yes. Yes. Very good to know. And another great thing about this product is that it is exclusive to our trade professionals. So it's really only available to new and existing professional customers of ours who work in the trades. And it's really going to give you a competitive edge over other installers. Not only is it going to be a much faster and simpler installation, so you can get it done a lot quicker, it's also going to minimize a lot of the concerns over an installation because it does simplify it so much and does make it such a quicker project to do. And on top of that, right now we're also offering an additional 20% off of our ruler cable. So it's another great way to save a bit of money.
And it's also another great way to minimize callbacks. Callbacks are the
Yes.
bane of everybody's existence. We don't want callbacks, and callbacks normally happen from people that bought the wrong amount of cable or put it in incorrectly. So we're trying to solve those issues so you don't have a callback. You go out there, you put it in, and that person has heated floors for their lifetime. So that's one of the driving things when it comes to this product is make a product that's quality, that's easy to install, that you're there once and you're done.
Yes, absolutely. All right. And I think that's all we have. So are there any questions? I'm not seeing any just yet. I'm double checking. No questions. Olivia, can you check Facebook for us? Awesome. All right. So I think that that's it. Uh, we are going to have our next webinar is Thursday, August 8th at 1 o'clock. And we're going to be talking about keeping roofs, driveways, and pipes safe during the winter using our snow melting and our de-icing products. If you would like to join us for that, it'll be right here on Zoom. So definitely check it out. And we also offer here on Zoom daily trainings. Generally, these are during the weekdays around 4 o'clock p.m., usually short and sweet, 10 to 15 minutes. So come on in, learn a little bit about our products, and you can also ask any questions that you have.
That's Central Time.
Yes, that is a good point. 4 o'clock Central Time. And like I said, for July, we're offering 20% off of our floor heating ruler cables. So be sure to check that out on our website. Once this webinar is finished, we'll email you with a quick survey asking for some feedback. We'd love to hear any of your comments, suggestions, especially topics for future webinars that you'd be interested in learning more about. So be sure to check that out. And of course, if there's ever questions, concerns, comments, if you need to ask us anything, reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email, or visit our website. And that is all I have for now. If that's good for you, Scott, I think we can close it out here. Until next time, stay warm.
And be radiant. Thanks for joining us.